First of all, I just want to thank you for this opportunity. This is great, great opportunity. I'm sensing it's got some energy to it.
Yeah, absolutely, Will. These interviews really help a lot of people for one thing. But for another thing, to be honest with you,
Yes,
I'm really suspect of channeled information.
rightly so.
As we should be. I think you would agree to that.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely.
I sort of go by my feeling, my gut feeling, and I had a friend that had a reading from you, and he said it was pretty profound. So
Right,
it warrants me really checking into this because we're all looking for answers. And
absolutely.
I think if there's even a possibility that you're tapped into something, which I totally believe is possible,
Right, right,
we should listen, especially if it's information coming from something like the 12th dimension.
right. And what I can say to you is that that which calls itself cosmic awareness is always maintained, never just blindly accept, always ask questions. And in these times with deception and fraud, especially amongst the psychics, I
Right,
think it's very important to be open, but not to be gullible.
right, right.
You
Yeah,
know?
it's especially in today's age. I mean, gullibility is what got us to this point. I even wrote a book about
Uh-huh.
beliefs, belief systems, and how
Right?
dangerous it can be to
Yeah, yeah,
to just blindly believe in an experience that somebody else had thousands of years ago and may or may
absolutely.
not have had. And
Yeah.
to me, it's a little bit like if you're really hungry, reading a
Hmm.
book about some guy that ate a really great meal
Me,
like 1,000
yeah,
years ago and
yeah,
expecting to get something out of it.
exactly. You might get a little bit out of it, but that's not nutrition.
Yeah,
Certainly doesn't feed the soul at the deepest level.
yeah, you could sit there and starve to death reading the book,
Exactly.
and which I think we have spiritually.
Well, that and the fact that these ones that are in control, and there are a group that are very much in control, as we know. I mean, they've been planning this, they've been manipulating events for thousands of years,
Yep.
further than what most people think possible,
Yeah,
you
it's
know?
it's difficult for us to manage events over just a couple of year period. So it's really difficult for us to wrap our head around how
Yeah,
could a powerful race of individuals, possibly going even into the human lineage of
yeah,
generation after generation, make this plan and keep it up and keep it secret. But
exactly.
it appears like that is possible because it seems like that is what is happening today.
Absolutely. But what is also happening are cracks are starting to appear.
Yeah.
But most people look at the cracks and say, oh, no, that's all normal, no problem there. So they don't question. They just let themselves be led by the realities, by the belief systems that they've been following all their lives. Remember, it's not only that it's over the millennia, each and every one of us comes into a third dimensional reality where there's a type of indoctrination of beliefs. And then it's reinforced all of your life, you know?
Yeah, a
I
little
mean,
just to tell you a little bit where I'm coming
yeah,
from,
please,
and then
please.
maybe we could sort of spring from there is I see the world today as
Hmm.
being really in a precarious place. Like I think if I was from the Middle East, I might say something like I believe in Allah but tie up my camel first. You
Yeah,
know,
exactly.
there's this balance that we
Yeah.
we really have to pay attention to the third dimensional mundane things, but at the same time realize that we have built a total global civilization that is completely unsustainable. It's totally
Hmm.
dependent on a financial system that depends on infinite growth, and that growth is dependent on infinite resources, and we don't have that. So
That's right.
it's colliding, and a lot of things around us are breaking down. And if
Hmm.
we try to fix it with, like Einstein said, you'll never come up with solutions to the problems from the same level that created the problems. We need a transformation of consciousness while at the same time taking care of the nuts and bolts. But the only way out of this, as I see it, is if this transformation of consciousness into a global mind, a oneness, is really true. And that's why we do our magazine. That's basically most of the things we do in our life is to try to help that, because I think that is the only way we're going to fix this.
You will never defeat the tyrant by picking up the sword.
No, these people get up early. I had this conversation with a friend of mine the other day, and I said, hey, when was the last time you got up early, like 3:30 in the morning, with a bunch of billionaires with all the power in the world to make any kind of a plot or a scheme? These people do it every day.
Absolutely.
They're up before the crack of dawn out there, and they're driven. And, you know, the rest of us, we're just trying to live our lives and, you know, be happy, share some love, and live it out. But these people are driven. That's the reason I think things like this and what the message is that I've heard so far from you is really, really important, because it's the only thing that's going to save humanity. Some new information coming from a higher source that can really change us from our heart chakras up and through and touch every person on the planet.
Absolutely. And high heart. Calista just said high heart. She just did a blog about the high heart.
Right. And this is important too. Like Calista, like in my book, I was saying that the reason we're in the shape we're in is because of the hardcore, rigid, patriarchal systems and organizations and religions. And I think what's happening now, and I wrote this in the book too, there's two things that they didn't think about. One was the internet, and we're doing it right now. Two was women waking up. And as this feminine energy comes in, it's so subtle but so strong that it's dismantling all of the foundations of our patriarchal corporations and governments, and we're seeing this collapse, and it's good. You know, people say, oh my God, you know, but this is good because it's those systems that are destroying the planet.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And hand in hand with that, we always have to remember that the feminine energy, the maternal energy, is all about birth. But to achieve birth, they have to go through a 9-month gestation period, then they have to go through the agonies of delivery, and it's not always a fun thing to go through. And yet women hold that for us.
Right.
So, and I do not further believe that all we're ready to do is replace the paternal type of system with the matriarchal. That's been done already.
Right.
What we need to do is have that balance of the male and female.
Yep. And I think that's what we have to find, this equilibrium, because the females, I think, have gone way too far sometimes with some of the feminine movements, and that just butts heads with what we need. We need a blending, you know, and I'm also talking about men opening up to their own feminine energy.
Certainly. But equally, the feminine has to open up to its power.
Right.
Its complete, total power to create that which is new. It may be seeded by the masculine, but it is the feminine that births it. So somewhere along the lines, we have to understand that the masculine has to receive the feminine and open the heart, and the feminine has to receive the mind and open up the mind. Right. The two together will create balanced human beings.
Yeah, this is the new consciousness. Yeah.
Can I just share something with you?
Absolutely.
I had a picture that I've had in my mind for a long time, and it's the picture of the male and the female standing together, back to back. And she has her hands raised up to receive. He has his hands with the palms pointing outwards to the world. She receives and passes it to him, and then he energizes it out.
Right. Yeah, that's a really good analogy of like Gurdjieff. Have you ever heard of Gurdjieff?
Gurdjieff, yes.
Gurdjieff used to say that you can picture us like we're out at sea on this big ship, And the male energy is in the pilot house, the captain and the navigator. But the female is that's the energy, that's the coal being shoved into the furnace, and like all the energy that's making that thing move is the feminine. But it's the male because we've been out here in the world hunting and gathering, so our energy does pretty good at manipulating the environment, but we need the energy of the female.
That's right. And the actual breath is actually spirit.
Kalista, you should do a painting of that.
Yes, I've been doing a few paintings. I don't know whether you've had a look at them, Rakasha.
I have.
But, they just come through when they need to come through. I've been stuck on one now for a couple of weeks, but I know that's going to be sent through pretty soon.
Yeah,
but there's some sort of energy in there, and I really think that a lot of the time I'm sort of channeling cosmic awareness through my artwork.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool to have a female gathering energy from the universe and the cosmos with the male here with the earth between his hands.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
that sounds good.
So Will, wait.
Yes.
I am really confused. Like, I'm on YouTube and looking at things, and I go to, legitimate NASA websites and government sites, and there's a lot of misinformation, disinformation, and let's face it, if something was coming, the government's not going to tell us. What do you think about Nibiru?
Well, I think Nibiru has been part of human history for a long, long time. And I do believe it is a actual planet. Zachariah Sitchin, of course, talked about the 12th planet and everything. Information I received just through my own research many, many years ago. And I do believe that there has been a race, the Anunnaki, who have been the seeders of modern civilization. Because there's been different epochs of human civilization on this planet, or spiritual civilization. And I do think that this is a real force. I think that it's been held up for the last several months because I think the original intent was for it to pass very close to the Earth and create all the cataclysms we've heard predicted.
Right.
And I think that equal to that and opposing that are what we call the Galactic Federation forces, and that they're trying to keep things in balance, knowing they can't hold back the tidal wave eventually, but to prepare humanity for it. And so I think that the planet, which is seemingly stuck in some position close to the sun, is ready to break free, if you will. And that it is also part of the overall energies of change that are coming. So yeah, I totally support Nibiru, but I don't worry about it either. It's like, well, if it's out there, it's been here before. We have many, many accounts historically of the winged disc, which is an interesting representation because you've probably seen those pictures that look like the winged disc, or Quetzalcoatl, as some call it,
When you say you totally support it, you don't mean that you support what they're doing.
No, of course not.
No, you recognise.
I don't support what the archonic energies, the archons, have been doing with it. But I definitely believe that there is I don't know if it's a whole planet, but definitely this planetoid ship called Nibiru. As I see it, it's basically a ship that's been hollowed out of a planet, Yeah,
and it could be that is the way of the future. As we evolve into a higher advanced society and civilization, we might see that having a rocket-type ship is sort of ridiculous. You would want something like a moon-shaped vehicle that could withstand, the craters because even the moon has a soft crust that they can't quite figure out, because no matter how big the meteorite is, it only goes down so far, and the moon rings like a bell, and that might be the way to travel around, because then you would have the inside like a hollow earth, and you would have a thick crust where you'd have the gravity of the inside of the hollow planet. So it'd be perfect.
But if you're going to travel great distances, and it's going to take time to do those distances, I think you'd want to have a situation where you're in a planet-type environment where you can carry on day-to-day life.
Right.
versus, suspended animation or enduring these huge trips. And then, of course, we're not even yet talking about the portals, the vortexes, the stargates that also make it possible to travel those great distances or interdimensionally. There's just so much beyond. It's been the realm of science fiction and fantasy for a long time, but it truly touches something deep within the human consciousness. And therefore, yeah, I totally agree. A ship of that magnitude that sustains life in such a manner makes more sense than some tubular rocket ship that's buzzing around up there, you know?
Especially if you're actually traveling through space from point A to point B, which comes to another point. There may not be an out there. You know, it might be that the deeper reality to this, I'm sure you've thought about the holographic universe principles.
Absolutely,
and it really does seem like, matter of fact, Professor Gates, a couple of years ago, him and some of the smartest people on the planet discovered that there is an interesting binary code embedded into and under the equations that manifest life itself. It's really difficult to explain, but what's curious about that binary code is they're saying that when they found it, they were amazed that there would be a binary code built into the natural equations of life, but it's a specific binary code. Like when we're doing this over the internet, or if I send an email, embedded underneath that code is a binary code that is it's called a self-correcting block code, and it takes whatever you're saying or typing and holds it in check, and when it's sent through the internet, it constantly makes corrections. So why is it that nature itself has a built-in binary code, and it happens to be the same one that we use on computers? And these are the smartest people on the planet scratching their head and telling us that, hey, there is something very, very indicative about this that's telling us that this might be a simulation.
Yeah. Well, interestingly enough, while I haven't heard of that specific theory, it certainly correlates to other things I've heard of the binary type of system. Now, I know in the years I've been channeling and the years I've been searching and seeking, what I would say that I've come to the conclusion of, in alignment rather, with the information cosmic awareness has presented, for example, is that we are living in what it calls a dualistic reality. It's this or that. That's binary, absolutely binary. Now, it could be that to live in this realm of physical reality based on a dualistic system, it would need a binary code that underlies everything. Everything.
Yeah, that's a good thought. It's exactly probably true, too.
But would that kind of binary code system operate in a multidimensional reality? It couldn't.
Right.
It is so specific for this physical third-dimensional reality. And it is that underlying indoctrination, if you will, that spirit chooses to go into so it can have this dualistic separated experience. And you see, we're looking at it in this little parameter here. This is what the binary system is. But what if it's like huge, humongous, beyond just this? This is a slice of it, but it's not the totality. But we look at it as the totality. And therefore, since we're so immersed in that system, we've got to understand it in that way.
And even when we say it's huge and almost infinite, at the same time, it could be really small. I mean, how does our mind wrap itself around that, you know?
Exactly. Well, carrying on with that example, I mean, we know that from a holographic point of view, if you were to take one cell, you could reproduce the entire body, so to speak. Okay? So each cell contains something. Now, in this third-dimensional reality, that might be this binary code system. But could that not also be the actual God spark that underlies everything?
Right.
And if it is so, then what we really can access is something so much beyond this limiting belief system that we live in. That is the fundamental bedrock of everything we experience in third dimensionality until we start to go beyond it.
Right.
Once we start to go beyond that binary dualistic system, then we start going into the realm of paradox. Because a binary system holds it's this or that. A unitary consciousness says it's this, that, and everything else. Okay? And I think that is crucial to the exact point that we're in right now in terms of where we're ready to go. We are ready to become multidimensional in our nature. But to do that, we have to supersede our third dimensional bias.
I'm also thinking that, you know how we have our DNA code, and the scientists reckon that 90% of it is junk or whatever. I think the 10% that they're seeing is the binary percent that we have to use in this paradigm. And the rest of it is our multidimensional aspect, which is a different code altogether. But we can only access the 10% binary while we're actually in this paradigm. And I think what's happening now is we're being bombarded by so much energy from the suns and the universe itself at the moment to awaken that other percentage that's taking us into a multidimensional aspect rather than just a 3D binary.
Yeah, I can't even imagine at this point what lies ahead of us. But one thing I've thought about is that there seems to be an underlying consciousness, cosmic awareness. There's an underlying consciousness underneath the field of matter itself that has, from the very beginning, whether it was a Big Bang or whatever, it seems like the intent of the cosmos has been to pull itself together. In the beginning, it was pulling together in atomic atoms, helium and hydrogen. Then after it was pulled enough of that together, it started pulling together in molecules, in a slightly higher complex life form. Then as molecules were formed, they formed themselves and pulled together into cells, an even higher life form. Then the cells into organisms. And now here we are today. You are a planetary cell. I'm a planetary cell. And we've reached the peak of what we can be as this planetary cell. And now we're energetically coming together like atoms, like a covalent bond. On this planet, we're like human beings, but we're like planetary cells forming this planetary something that we don't quite know what it is. We know it has something to becoming one. We know it has something to do with giving up our ego individualness and reaching out like we're doing right now. The internet is a physical manifestation of this spiritual energy starting to connect.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now let's look at that at the very limited level of that perception. I mean, it makes total and complete sense while we're in this physical reality. But we are at the same time in many other realities, be they other dimensional realities, other realities in our extended solar system, galactic, universal, whatever. And we are at the point, literally, of going, hey, I'm not just a cell, I'm part of a body.
Right.
I'm part of something that is much greater than my isolated sense of self has ever directed me to understand or confined me to experience.
Yeah, this would be what the Christians misinterpreted, I think, as Christ consciousness. You know,
absolutely.
We're becoming part of something that we can't quite grok in a Heinleinian sense. We can't wrap our heads around it, you know.
But from that paradoxical point of view, we've always been part of it.
Yeah.
We've never stopped being part of it. What we have not had is a memory or remembrance of that. And so in a sense, we are really, truly just awakening to something that is much greater than what we have ever believed it to be. And therein lies what you wrote about and what awareness has been talking about for years, that our beliefs will indeed create the realities that we experience. Because that's how it is, you know?
This
But
is
it
this
changed.
is this is something I'm wrestling with almost moment to moment, Will, because I really do. I want to believe that my belief is going to help create a better world. But then I think of all the people that were in the towers on 9/11 or Nagasaki or Hiroshima. I'm sure that they believed that their beliefs would make a better world for them too. How do you reconcile that? And does it just boil down to sometimes shit happens? Or is it just really that we just have to hold on to this belief and realize that we're going to eventually be something bigger than ourselves, even if something happens to the physical form?
I think the first point there, and it's valid what you're saying, is to recognize, as the mystics have always maintained, everything here is illusionary. Everything is not really what you think it is. And if we really are spiritual beings, as awareness says, and as I hold to be so in my own perception and understanding of reality, if it is so that we are spirit beings who are, by extension from the soul level, having a physical experience, then we have to completely immerse ourselves in that experience. So, if the point of having a physical life is to have the experience of separation, at least on a level of perception, a separation from spirit, despite what religion tells us, which is controlled, we actually have the capacity to wake up to our greater reality. But to do so, we have to first understand that every single human being on this planet is having the same type of journey. That it's all guided from the level of the soul or spirit, and therefore each individual has their own reason for having the experiences they're going to have so that they can learn the lessons they're here to have. Now, what about the people in the World Trade buildings? What about the people in Nagasaki or Hiroshima? Well, that would be spirit saying, okay, let's have this experience because, you know, in the end, all that's going to happen is that the illusionary experience will be wiped away, and then the reality of your consciousness is restored. So even though it's tragic for us who are still on the third dimension to hear the stories or see it right in front of our eyes as we did on 9/11, we always have to remember, they too are having the experience they're choosing to have, and the soul is choosing to have. And the promise there, the absolute promise, is nobody's left behind. You're not here just to suffer. This is a religious belief system that has been in vogue for so long. But in fact, we're not here to suffer. We're here to wake up. That's the whole point of our spiritual journey, is to wake up to the greater truth. And where you're coming from is so crucial in understanding where most people are coming from. Most people are coming from that perception that this is all there is. This is all there is. And if that is so, then we're in a lot of desperation, because when things happen that are bad to us, it's like, why would God let that happen? Well, I guess the bigger question is, why does your soul require that experience? What's the lesson here? And if we also remember, and this is very hard for us to remember, we come from an eternal consciousness, without beginning, without end, if you want to put it that way. And therefore, hey, if I was out there and I had all of eternity to play with, why don't I have this little drama happening? And hey, I could have that little drama over there, and I could have everything in between. Because always consciousness returns back to source. Always. But when we're in the body, having these third dimensional experiences, we literally are trapped in them. We're trapped. And you mentioned the Christ consciousness. Did not the entity that we now know as Jesus come in to introduce, at a very basic level, a new concept? My Father's house has many mansions.
Right.
you know?
Yep.
So that's why these times are both frightening for us and also very exciting. I got to admit, this is a very exciting time to be alive.
That's probably why we're here, Will.
Yeah.
You know, this is. I mean, to be at the pivotal point of a global transformation of consciousness, possibly even solar, if not galactic.
Yeah.
You know, to be in physical form and to be able to bring your frequency up to a level to where that can be entrained into this higher frequency and being pushed into this. It's going to be an amazing journey, I think, whether we're in physical form or not. But I think to be in physical form, it's going to be, at the very, very least, really interesting.
And when we're going through the physical experiences, it's really damn important to remember, okay, this is illusionary. Don't get stuck in the fear or the negativity or the hopelessness, because that's what these ones who have been in charge for so long have been masters in creating these fear-based realities where you are powerless as the individual. Things happen to you because they've created the victim mentality. Human beings are victims. There's nothing you can do to change things, you know? Believe in Big Brother. Believe in your governments. Believe in your kings and queens and all of them, because they really know what's best for you. Well, we now know that they're the deceivers and it's their system they're trying to protect. So the way forward isn't even worrying about a collective awakening. There's only one awakening you need to worry about.
Yeah.
That's you.
Good, really good thought, Will. That's a good thought. So how, you know, when you're channeling this awareness, are you conscious of it too? Like, is there a part of your being that's conscious of it?
Absolutely. Now, you're familiar with Edgar Cayce, are you not?
Yep.
Of course. And what I've come to understand, and that is part of the cosmic awareness spiel of what it is that Edgar Cayce himself was channeling cosmic awareness. Now, he would therefore be a channeler or an interpreter of those energies of consciousness that were cosmic awareness for his time. And at that time, as you know, he was a very religious man, and it was an absolute challenge for him to do what he was doing, bringing forth this kind of information. So his way of doing it was to go into a trance mediumship. So he literally, that's why they call him the sleeping prophet, zoned out, checked out. So this energy, this force. So he didn't have a kind of interplay with it. He just let his body be used for that purpose. The way I work it, because we have advanced, and in terms of a personal journey, I've worked all my life to gain deeper understanding and awareness. Okay, it didn't just happen one day that I woke up and I channeled awareness. I've been at it for a long time, building my understanding. And I actually am there. It's like what I do is I step back into the back seat of the car and give awareness the steering wheel and say, you drive it. Okay? So I'm present in the vehicle. I can hear what awareness is saying. I have images, I have energies, all kinds of things. But my task, myself, is to step out of the way to allow this information to flow through. And it has different levels. Sometimes what's being said will challenge my personal beliefs and concepts. And then it's harder for me to stay out of the picture, but it is one of the gifts that I've developed, staying out of the picture and letting awareness come through. Afterwards, I might say, wow, did it ever have some challenging things to present?
Right.
You know, and at the same time, I've been involved in a journey of this, especially since last December, the 21st, when most people were so disappointed because nothing happened. You know, ascension didn't happen. The planet's still here and the bastards are still in control.
Right, right.
And at that time, I was actually told on a personal level that the way I was to channel was to end. And at first I thought, oh my God, I thought I was the channel. But what actually happened is I have expanded somehow energetically to a point where I'm actually able to bring more of the consciousness through than I did even 10, 11 months ago. So, yeah, I'll be here. And one of the things that's very interesting is that I can pop in and out just like that. I can be talking as awareness or allowing awareness to speak through me. And then let's say there's a glitch that happens and I have to turn off the computer or turn it on or whatever's happened. I come right out, do what I need to do, talk to you as I am right now, and then literally a second later, go back in.
Would you feel comfortable in letting cosmic awareness come through right now and see what might be there?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That would be great, especially even in reference to me as an individual or to life in a more grander sense. Whatever, I completely surrender to the process. Whatever's there is there.
Okay, then. That's what we'll do, okay?
Okay.
So, I know you're recording at your end. Do you mind if I record at this end too?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You can ask questions.
Just have to turn on my recorder.
Okay.
Just waiting a second here. Welcome to modern technology. I'll tell you what, since this all started with being able to do digital recordings, you know, the availability of these readings is almost instant. I can do a session and send off the audio file a few minutes later. It's great. Okay, I'm just going to start this. Start recording. Okay, I've turned on my recorder just so that we can record this portion here. And I want to say I'm doing an interview with Rahasya Poe, and it is the 1st of September for us here in Australia, but the 31st of August there in California. Okay, so yes, I'll do the going inwards. I have prepared somewhat before we even got started, so the energies are already available. They've already been flowing through at some level. But what I'm going to do now is go deeper in, takes a moment, and then the energies of cosmic awareness will flow through. I will step out of the picture, so to speak, but it's still my voice and everything, a little way different in how things are pronounced and everything, pronunciation, enunciation, all that. But I think you may find a different energy reading, if you will, the whole thing, okay?
Okay.
So that's a lot of explanation for something I'm just going to go and do, okay?
All right.
So I'll talk to you on the other side of the reading, and as I love to say, in a moment, cosmic awareness will be simply talking to you from the other side. Okay. That which is cosmic awareness is indeed available at this time, that it greets one and all, and is well pleased with the opportunity to put the message from this awareness out into the consciousness of humanity through this interview, that this awareness greets one and all, and does allow the interviewer now to step in and present questions. If there is no immediate question, this awareness can proceed with an opening message.
I would prefer to hear the opening message.
That this awareness would say to one and all that these are critical and crucial times indeed, that not only mankind, womankind, humanity itself stand at that very edge of a cliff of grand scale. All of the universe does so also. That this point in evolutionary, spiritual evolutionary history is one that will have grand and great ramification across all dimensional levels and extend well beyond that which is the human journey. Also, This is a important point for that which is the consciousness of Mother Earth itself, a breathing, sentient consciousness that inhabits and infuses the planetary body that she has occupied for so long. One must even begin to see that this journey at this time is not simply the journey of humankind, but in actuality the dual journey of Mother Earth as she herself ascends into higher consciousness, accompanied by those on her surface that are along for the ride. That humans at this time are battling royally with old concepts and beliefs indoctrinated deeply into their psyche, and that the reason for this is so that the soul could have an experience in physicality, in that system of dualistic reality, that binary system where the experience dictated that either things were one way or another. That in the indoctrinated belief paradigms that are present, that it is so that each and every being on the planet, Mother Earth herself, has chosen this experience for the purpose of soul growth and soul development. That to believe that the individual is a small being, unable to affect their personal reality, would be erroneous. And yet, this is the indoctrinated belief, a belief fostered by certain ones who have long been in charge, who have, who have a hidden agenda. This hidden agenda revolves around their survival in these crucial times, for these ones too know that the timelines of reality are all fusing together at this crucial point, at this cliff's edge, and that which lies ahead is a new way of being or not. For each individual is the expression of the soul that extends itself into the physical dualistic reality of experience for the purpose of having experiences in this physical dualistic reality. That there is no right, there is no wrong to the experiences that are had, for all are, at the most basic level, illusionary. But as one immerses oneself into the illusionary reality of their perceptions, the experiences that come forth are of a nature to confirm to them in this paradigm that which is the physical model of reality, the dualistic model of reality. Therefore, due to the separation from that which is their capacity to understand spirit, to understand their true spiritual source, it is imperative that those having the experiences of a physical dualistic reality believe in these reality experiences that they are having and all of the manipulation behind this. Imagine, if you will, the soul, which is eternal in nature, chooses to have certain experiences so that it can grow and evolve. It extends an aspect of itself down into the physical. This aspect becomes an individualized being, a human being. This human being is born in the paradigm of physicality, but it could also be understood that to have the total experience itself, the soul agreed to extend itself into this reality paradigm and chose to forget itself. So the individual focused personality that was having the experience could have a total experience of physicality, of a third dimensional reality. That when the experience is complete and done, the soul retracts from the physical reality and returns back to spirit. If one were to understand that spirit or the soul resides in that which is commonly called the fifth dimension, that moving down into third dimensionality does involve an encapsulation of consciousness into a very limited and restricted form so that it can have this total experience of the physical, of the material. That the soul has never forgotten who and what it is, but the individual focus of consciousness, the individual personality having the experience with the plan and design to be totally immersed in this physical reality, forgets the connection to spirit. That it could be said that part of the reason for this is to have the total physical experience, but another part is to have the experience of waking up, of realizing that the individual separated self is not alone, is not separated from its higher being, that this extends beyond a masculine or feminine perspective, that this involves males and females. It involves all who are soul expressions, all who have come into third dimensional reality for these experiences. As this is a game that is played across eons, it is thus possible for the soul to extend itself many times over into physicality, to have many experiences that are cumulative in effect. Thus it is that one may begin the physical journeys as that which may be referred to as a young soul, totally immersed in the physical nature of the journey. But with subsequent incarnations extended over millions of years and millions of scenarios and lifetimes, that eventually the soul reaches through one of its focused personalities a place of potential to awaken to the greater truth that one is not separated, but rather part of that which is a greater collective consciousness. This is the point that humanity itself and Mother Earth herself stand at now, that point of emergence, the awakening from that which is perceived reality to that which is the understood reality of the greater soul, the greater spirit, of the divine nature of that which is God Source itself. That at this time, mankind, womankind, stands at a very crucial point, for many are not aware of this. Many hold to traditional beliefs and philosophies, hold that they are victims in the ongoing events around them, victims in their personal lives, victims in their national lives, victims in their global lives. Thus, the events that seem to be underway at this time are events that many are fearful for. They are indeed bringing to each individual a level of challenge unknown previously. unknown, because one can indeed only have the experience of the moment. And that while in this crucial moment, it is often forgotten that one has had similar experiences, either in one's personal life or in other lifetimes. That it is as much an awakening to what has been as it is to awakening to what is now. That in order for the soul of humanity to awaken, it must go through these most difficult times, these times of challenge, these times of obtuseness and deception, that the potential is available for one and all to supersede the deception of their lives, to awaken to the realities of that which is the greater composite soul, and the greater levels of consciousness that lie beyond this physical reality. But not all are here to awaken. Indeed, the same still applies that this awareness spoke of a moment ago, that each individual is an expression of the soul having its own unique experience. And it may well be that many are here to experience not an uplifting, not an awakening, but rather the continuance of their lives at such limited levels, for the soul in its eternal nature sees in advance that more lives will be needed to reach that point of divergence, that point of awakening. Therefore, one of the questions that is so troubling to so many, the question of why is there a need for so much suffering, so much pain, so much violence and hopelessness, is part of not simply one lifetime, but extended lifetimes, is part of the soul seeking to have unique experiences. That the new soul, young soul, commences in a way from that state of being an uninformed, unaware soul being extension, to a point where through the many lifetimes it reaches a point that is often called the old soul status. That the old soul, if you will, is one that has progressed through many lifetimes, many experiences, and has reached spiritual maturity at last. That which was the entity known commonly as Jesus Christ, or as this awareness prefers, Jesus the Christed One, was one who came into reality with the purpose of introducing a new stream of consciousness, one that would eventually lead many along the journey to a point in the future where those many who are ready could awaken to their own Christ consciousness. That this is where it now stands, if you will, that many are ready to step into Christ consciousness. Another way of understanding this is that many are ready to awaken to their higher levels of consciousness beyond third dimensionality, and to become effective cogs, if you will, in a greater process of awakening or introducing new streams of consciousness into the human soul consciousness, or the human expression of the soul. For it could be understood that in one way, humanity is a soul itself, a collective soul having an experience as well. Therefore, at this very crucial time, mankind, humankind, the planet Mother Earth, the galactic empires, the universe itself all stand at a very crucial point in the evolution of consciousness and the return to divine consciousness and divine perception. That this awareness is complete, its opening message, but is ready to answer any personal questions you might have.
Yes. It appears to me on an intuitive level that we are waking up to the realization that we live and breathe and have our being within a larger cosmic body. Is what is going on planet Earth a natural event that is isolated to planet Earth? Or is this a solar consciousness? Or is it galactic? Or is the whole universe waking up through this process? And if this is unique to the planet Earth, is the urgency that we're sensing because there is a window of opportunity because of the cycles of the precession, or just this moment in time? Is it really important that we do this now? Is it going to happen whether we do anything as individuals or not?
That the answer is yes on many levels, and that this awareness will now attempt to explain this more fully. That it must be understood that Earth is not alone in the solar system and the galaxy, the universe. That it is connected at levels of consciousness that are not readily understood by many. That this is also the same in terms of humanity itself, that each and every human being is part of the collective body of humanity as well. And that this awakening is the realization that one is part of a greater reality. Starting at the human level, the understanding and awareness that no man or woman is an island unto themselves, that they are connected to all other human beings, and that the individual journey is one to remember this, to awaken to this. By extension, the realization that the planet herself, a maternal form of consciousness, is also sentient and alive and aware. And that each individual on the planet is part of her dream, part of her awakening as well. Therefore, the individual is not alone in the perspective of being alone by themselves on a hostile planet, not connected to other human beings, but quite the opposite. That each and every individual is connected to each and every other individual on the planet, each and every other creature, each and every other form of life on the planet, and indeed connected to Mother Earth herself. Then, by extension, to realize Mother Earth is part of a solar system of other planets that also hold consciousness, and that the solar system then is part of a galaxy and is connected to all other parts of the galaxy, that being the Milky Way. Then that the Milky Way itself is part of a group of galaxies, and that all galaxies are connected, all are part of a bigger body, the body of the universe, and that the universe itself is part of yet a greater collective of many universes. For most, this thinking lies beyond their need or their purpose. And so it is that one comes back to the individual again. that the purpose of the soul was to have an individual physical experience, building upon each individual life, each individual journey into physical reality until a stage, a point is reached where one can expand one's thoughts to these greater concepts. It has been reached, this point of expansion. But again, not all are ready for this, for many are still having experiences of individual nature where they are building that which will be their future understanding and awakening. But for those who have reached that point, it is crucial now to realize that one is not an island unto oneself, but part of a continent, part of a planet, part of a solar system, a galaxy, a universe. And that then one is also part of spirit, of the soul extending itself, having experiences, part of that which is God consciousness, that many do have concepts of God, but not concepts that are of such a nature, for God is often portrayed as an individual sitting in judgment of each being that comes before him, for it is a paternal God at this time that is mostly believed in. But God is not paternal, it is not a male, it is not a female, it is all. And it is, in a sense, God having its own experiences and bringing these experiences into its collective knowing and consciousness, and seeing that this is a wonderful adventure. Does this somewhat answer your question?
Yes, it does. At this time, it seems like the sun is going through an activity that supersedes the predicted 11-year cycle. And I'm wondering, how does the sun and solar activities play into this? Because it seems like the darker energies on the planet, like the deep underground military bases, seems like there is a large part of the dark population that is looking at surviving underground, and it could be because of solar flares or coronal mass injections. And I'm wondering, what does the sun's energy, what part is it playing in our awakening?
A crucial part indeed. That one can understand these matters purely through physical explanation and terms. That the sun is a physical body of ultra-high gases and plasma that is at the center of the solar system. That from a purely physical level, it is putting out many energies at this time, chronic energies necessary to shift consciousness and to bring about change. These solar energies, if only measured at the physical level, are raising themselves to a dangerous level that is threatening humanity and the planet itself. And that seeing this only on a physical level, one can indeed become very frightened, for that which is the solar energies are not energies that the human body can easily withstand, nor the planet itself. The radiation or energies of the sun are indeed becoming stronger, and that the 11-year cycle, solar cycles that many know of, many speak of, do not exactly explain why this is so. For in that 11-year cycle, that which has happened before is happening again, and should not be of such a high nature, such danger. But it is not simply that it is an 11-year cycle that is occurring here. The sun itself is in a transformational process and is interlinked with planet Earth. And that as Mother Earth began her cycle, this also initiated a new cycle for Father Sun. That the sun itself is a consciousness, and it is much, much more than a physical solar body, a sun at the center of solar system soul. That the sun is also ready to take a huge evolutionary step, as is the whole of the solar system, the whole of the galaxy as well. That the sun is also that which could be understood to be a portal. Indeed, many of the UFOs and vessels that are currently being sighted around the sun, around the planet, have arrived here through the portal that is the sun itself, a wormhole to other dimensions and other regions of space. That this wormhole is opening even more than it has ever been opened. And this is that which accounts to the increase of solar activity, that in some ways this is a yin-yang principle, a interaction of two various regions or areas of being. That as the sun expands and opens itself, it triggers Mother Earth's need for transformation. But equally, as Mother Earth began her journey towards transformation and evolution and ascension, it too, she too, triggered Father Sun, the sun itself, to begin its journey. It is the chicken and the egg principle, if you will. But rather than to figure out which came first, it is better simply to understand that due to the interrelationship between both bodies, that it matters not which began the process, for in a way it was a planned event, and that it ties into the planned event of spiritual evolution for humanity as well. Therefore, if one stays focused only on physical levels and does not understand that they, the individual, are more than a physical body, are pure consciousness having a physical experience, then they will have the experiences that will impact them in physical ways due to the rising levels of chronal activity and the radiation that is being sent out. That the way of surviving this is not to panic and go into fear, digging deep underground bases and scurrying underground, for these will become rat holes. And for those who think they can survive in their rat hole, that they may have a very unique experience indeed, that which their soul is requiring. Many will try to survive the physical by physical solutions, when the true solutions for this very important event is not to focus only on one's physical being, but to awaken to one's greater spiritual being, that which exceeds physicality. Therefore, in answer to your question, indeed events are happening that can be physically measured, that are threatening to the very survival of humanity and the planet Earth herself. but they are not what they seem to be, and to view them only from a very limited perspective will not ensure survival, if you will, for it is not about survival in the physical, but rather advancement in consciousness that is required now. And in doing so, one will proceed forward, one will awaken to greater truths and a greater reality. Is this clear?
This is very clear. So, speaking as a human being and as watching what the human beings as a human race can do and have done, is there anything that we could do to mess this process up, or is it far larger than individuals and even the human race as a whole?
It is far larger than the human race and individuals as a whole, but at the same time, one is having a unique individual experience. That what is important to understand here is that one will have the experience one believes in. Therefore, when one holds certain belief systems in place that dictate that one is only on the physical level, has no greater spiritual context to them, and that they must experience the physical, for there is nothing else, then one will have the physical experiences that back this belief up. But if one is able to extend their understanding to understand that they are not simply physical beings, but spiritual beings having a experience, then one does prepare oneself, or at least puts oneself in a position of having an experience beyond that which is deemed the norm, or that which is unavoidable. In answer to your question, that if an individual believes they can screw it up, that they may well have the experience of screwing it up. One must understand that choice is very crucial here, that for each choice one makes, one goes forward to experience the consequence of that choice, and it seems as if this is a seamless track of continuance. But in actuality, for each moment of choice, each time a choice is made, an event occurs at the level of consciousness whereby the choices made will have two results. One will be a focus choice. In other words, one will stay focused on the choice and have experiences that proceed from that choice. But there will be also another part of consciousness that is having alternate experiences. Some have called this probable lives or parallel lives. Thus, as one moves forward in life, making choices, that the soul itself will have the totality of all the experiences from all choices made, incorporated back into the soul at the appropriate time. But the focused personality will seemingly only have one life stream path. Thus it is that as one has made a choice and one deems it was the wrong choice, one may stay focused in the results of this wrong choice and call into their lives the actuality of that wrong choice. And if they believe it was a wrong choice, the definition of wrongness will apply, and the experiences in the physical will sustain this. However, from a greater understanding, there is no possibility of a wrong choice, for the soul is having multiple experiences across many levels and layers. It requires this. It is part of the greater consciousness of the soul. Thus, this awareness would say the concept of right and wrong is a dualistic concept, and one that requires the individual to focus on this or that, the right or the wrong. In actuality, there is no right choice, there is no wrong choice, there is only choice, and one will have the experiences of choice that are appropriate to the focus personality consciousness that made the choice. Does this make sense to you?
Yes, this does make sense. And if I could have one more quick question, and then I'll let you go. It's about chemtrails. How does chemtrails fall into this grand scheme of things, or even does it?
But this awareness will start by speaking of the grand scheme of things, for there is a grand scheme of things. That, again, from a dualistic reality, there are those who have certain information and knowledge about the future. These are ones who are in control. These are ones who are able to intersect with fourth dimensionality. From a fourth dimensional level, many timelines of possibility can be seen and perceived. Those in control see the many timelines and come back into that which is third dimensional reality to affect the certain timelines that will be most advantageous to them. That this is why there are agendas hidden and secret from humanity, for those in control are manipulating events so that certain timelines will come about where they will be in charge and continue to be in charge despite the effects of this present period of time where humanity, the planet, the solar system and all have reached a crucial point of change and shift. That this being so, chemtrails are part of the hidden agenda to affect the soils of the planet, changing those soils from an acidic nature to an alkaline base. This also ties in with certain companies and corporations which are developing new seeds to survive in alkaline soils, that this would give them control of food around the planet, for those traditional seeds that need an acidic soil can no longer survive, but the new seeds would. Thus, after certain events are completed according to the hopes of these ones in power, they would come out the other end, controlling all of the food sources. Equally, the chemtrails are also laying down viral agents that are to affect humans, to bring illness and disease, to make the immune system weak and ineffective. For there are certain of the hidden plans that involve the mass culling of humankind, so that what is left is manageable, for many of the timelines have shown the ones in control, the powers that be, the elites, that the earth will be going through certain critical physical events, and that the capacity of the planet to supply food to all of humanity will be extremely limited. Therefore, part of the hidden agenda of the powers that be is to ensure that many humans die off at this time. Thus, setting up for them the possibility of being in charge of a sustainable planet that is under their rule, as has been for so long. But what must also be spoken here is that the timelines viewed by these ones who are able to intersect with fourth dimensionality are not totally open to them. They have seen events coming to this point, but they have not been able to go further into the future. Their remote viewers are unable to see what lies ahead. Therefore, the plans, the machinations of those in power are actions of hedging one's bet. They are not certain of what lies ahead, but they are preparing the best timeline scenarios to ensure in their belief system that they will survive, that they will be in power, and that everything will continue in alignment with their plans and their interests. However, it is simply not so. But if one, in the course of one's individual life, chooses to buy into that reality that is being manufactured by those in control, and if one is not able to raise oneself beyond physical understanding and separation from spirit, then one may well need to have the very experiences that those in charge are manipulating and causing to occur. One could say these ones are evil and heinous in their intent. One could presume that the only way forward is to battle these ones, to fight them, to destroy them. But this would only be acting at the very same level of those who are in control, one tyrant perhaps replacing the other, still, however, being a tyrant nonetheless. That the only true way forward is not to buy into these agendas, these plans, these deceptions, to understand that even those who are planning such things are part of a much greater plan, part of a much higher plan of the divine itself, as it is time now to end the experiment in consciousness where those in the negative energies had control over those who were not at that level of negativity, who were coming more from a positive level. Humanity itself is not evil, and that given its own devices, human beings will always assist one another. But in order for this experiment in consciousness to occur, a balance had to be created that was imbalance, the imbalance of the dark over the light, good over evil, or rather evil over good. And that this has been part of the spiritual agenda, if you will, to see how this would work out. This experiment is coming to completion. A new planet is ready to be birthed. Mother Earth is ready to ascend into a balanced and harmonious state. That there will still be a dualistic reality that can be experienced by the soul wishing still to have a physical experience. But it will not be of a nature as it is now. It will rather be of a nature that those who need the dualistic experience will have choice between right and wrong. Those who are wrong, those who would choose to perpetuate the old systems, will be brought forward, and they will not be able to work from the darkness. They will not work through deceit. and through ignorance, and keeping humanity dumbed down, for humanity is ready to awaken at this time. Therefore, such plans as chemtrails, weather manipulation, media manipulation, economic manipulation, all that which is in existence at this time will come to an end, and the potential of a brave new world will be presented, but in honor of each and every individual having their unique and individual life experience. Each individual, each focused personality will have the right, does have the right to choose what realities they wish to experience. They may wish to continue an experience that keeps them in such a negative state, keeps them in victim mentality. They may choose to have an experience where those who have had corrupted power for so long are exposed, and a new social order is born, one of equity, true equity, liberty, and fraternity being the way of things. And yet others may choose to have an exalted experience, to raise themselves into unity consciousness and live on a planet of unity consciousness, not dualistic consciousness, not the consciousness of corruption. Many are the choices, and at this time, at this crucial time, humanity has come to a point, as has Mother Earth, as has the sun, as has the solar system and the galaxy, to choose one way or another. Remember also that the divine spirit is awake and present, that the winds of change that are now blowing are also the divine breath that supports all life, and that all returns back into spirit and is returned home. None will be left behind, no matter what experience they may choose, be it of a corrupted, negative order or of the highest exalted order. All are part of that which is the greater consciousness of spirit, and that the time now is present to wake up to this reality. The divine presence is indeed available to one and all that one must do is choose it. That this completes this answer.
Very good. I find this transmission adequate for this time too.
And then this awareness thanks you indeed for this opportunity to express itself.
Thank you very much.
Hello again.
Hey.
Hey, back. Well, there you go. That was a little bit of an interesting journey.
So how does that feel for you?
Well, what's interesting, this is hard to convey, is the expansion in consciousness and understanding. It's like I've gone to the ocean and I've got a bucket and I've dipped it into the ocean and I'm trying to bring up a lot of that water of the ocean, and yet there's a whole ocean there. So when I'm diving into it, it's like so much more. To try to keep it on track and present it in a way that's somewhat coherent and yet expansive is always a real trick for me. But it's like, okay, just let go, just let this happen, and let's see where that leads.
Yeah, because for a consciousness that's a non-duality consciousness to express itself through a duality mind with linguistics that's totally dependent on polarity thinking,
Absolutely.
must be a challenge.
Oh, it's an extreme challenge because on the one level, as I've just said, here's the ocean, and immersing yourself, you become the ocean. You have the perception, and then you separate from the ocean in order to be the vehicle to transmit that experience, that understanding into that dualistic format. And it's really an intriguing thing. And sometimes there's levels. I go up and down. Sometimes it feels like that flow is so strong and so focused. And others I'm struggling, like, how the hell can I bring this all together?
Right.
You know?
I can only try to imagine.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. But I certainly hope that when awareness comes through, even though it can go off on tangents, it can explode the least little question. Like you noticed a couple times, you asked about chemtrail, and there's this question, and then there's this answer.
Right. Yeah.
You know, chemtrails is only one strand in a tapestry that's huge. And it'll take that strand and try to explain it, but then give you this strand, give you that strand, and try to remind you, after all, you are a greater being. You're not just a small, little, limited being. It's a roller coaster.
Yeah, there were some good reminders in there, Will. That was really good. So is there a final message you would like to leave us with?
Yeah, I think the final message is that we stand at the very threshold right now of events so great in magnitude that to go there and think of it all only in physical terms could be very frightening. Indeed, these are very frightening times. I mean, we look at the actions around the world, the actions in the Far East, and the threat of armed missile strikes by the USA and other allied nations. We look at the weather systems, the earthquakes and everything, the sinkholes in the United States, the economic situation, which seems relatively stable, but up and down. When we look at all of these physical events that are occurring in our lives, it's very easy to become overwhelmed by them. It's very easy to go into a level of fear when things beyond your control seem to be happening that will have direct effect on you. And being in a place of fear is one of the areas that the powers that be have manipulated so that they can do what they want, but even more so that they can keep a ignorant and dumbed down human consciousness under their thumb, under their finger. Okay? So despite what is happening in the world itself right now, it is imperative to look at it openly and without fear. And even if one goes into fear, to say, what am I afraid of? You know, one thing I like to say to people often, I mean, we're afraid of world extinction events. We're afraid of millions, billions of people being killed, ourselves and our families, etc., etc. But what is the absolute truth? Absolute truth is that every one of the 7.5 billion people on this planet at some time are going to face that moment where they leave the physical and return back into spirit. Whether it's now in a mass event or on an individual timeline where they'll reach that point on their own, we will all return back to spirit.
Right.
And if we remember that and then expand that somewhat and say, hold on, what if I am more than me? What if I'm more than this physical body? What if reality as I interpret it is more? That allows us that choice then to say, okay, if that's so, I'm going to be open to it and I'm going to see if this happens or if that happens. Remember, you wrote a book about it. Your beliefs will define what you create, but more importantly, they will define what you believe, what you experience. Okay? So it is time for us to shift our belief system, to expand it to the what if. What if usually means, what if I'm wrong? What if I'm not the spiritual being? What if all of those ones in the physical world are right? Oh my God, have I got it wrong? But how about if we switch that a bit? How about if we say, what if I am a spiritual being? What if there is a point right now that is so crucial that by going into this point of a belief beyond that which has limited me into something much greater, I will have an experience beyond anything I have ever believed or imagined before. We are at the very point, the very nexus point of that experience of expansion and ascension. The only thing that will prevent this is our belief that it's not going to happen, or that those other forces that we've held as real forces for so long have power over us. That is a belief, and it's imperative now to question and challenge our beliefs. Okay?
Perfect. Perfect.